Welcome back to Vondelpede, and what I've got with us today is a very special treat. I have found an ISFJ, and what I thought I would do in today's video is ask the ISFJ if he's got any maybe constructive criticism towards INFPs. So just to begin with, tell us what is your opinion on INFPs?
I have experienced many INFPs.
Right.
I've seen the good and the bad.
Right, so let's start off with the good. What are some of the things that you would say are good traits in some of the INFPs that you've seen in your travels?
Ooh, well, they're nice. They're good to ask a question to when you don't know the answer.
And they might give some answer.
Yeah, you ask an INFP, say he has a question you don't know. That's something like, what should I do? Ask an INFP and they will tell you an answer. And
well, are these good answers though that the INFPs are giving?
Maybe it's more of like I was in a tough spot and I just needed to tell someone about it. So I had a handy INFP. And I just told the INFP about my situation. Oh my God, I'm in so much trouble. And the INFP can usually like relate to it or say, yeah, that is a really bad situation. I'm like, I'm not going crazy.
I think INFPs, because they're kind of known as kind of good counselors and listeners, that's something that some people are going to say that's a good attribute of INFPs. They will listen to you without too much judgment, some might say.
Yeah, that is the talent of the INFP. However, it depends on the INFP and it depends on the mood they're in. We've
met other INFPs who are maybe a little bit different to me in some ways. I'm not saying that I'm necessarily a good example of an INFP, but we have met some pretty extreme examples of INFPs in the past who maybe they're not the best listeners.
Not the best. An INFP who is not a good listener, it's like they've got a blank, like you tell them something and it just goes in one ear and goes out the other. I am an INFP, nobody understands. Like, I understand, and
they don't even hear.
No, you don't.
You could never understand.
You could never understand what I go through. I am an INFP. What would you know about it?
Can you give any specific examples or?
Well, yes, I know an INFP who spends all his time being on Facebook bemoaning his life and everyone around him. And he's drawn all these sympathetic people to him. And he just seems to be like, none of you understand me. And he keeps posting and they keep replying and it's just a drama.
We're talking about a guy that I knew in university, right? Who,
Yep.
Yeah.
Who to this day continues to just, write those posts where like, nobody suffers more than I am an INFP, none of you understand. And people are like writing to him, I understand, I want to understand, I feel so similar. You go, no, you don't know anything.
He's quite ungrateful, isn't he, when people go and sympathise with his plight. Don't worry, one day there will be hope for you. No, there won't.
There won't.
How could you possibly know how I feel?
For a man like me.
He's a very lonely guy now. I mean, he's probably always going to be alone at this rate, I would say.
I would say it's very likely. I'd be surprised if it didn't. However, his posts are wonderfully well written, beautiful posts.
Yeah.
You just read these like immaculately written, moaning posts.
It's sort of like Morrissey, right? The classic INFP who's moaning all the time, the Pope of Mope. But it doesn't really seem, it's so appealing sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know.
That perspective.
I love reading it.
What are some negative traits that you can think of when it comes to INFPs, just off the top of your head?
Well, there are many, and when you read about what are the negatives of the INFP, they're often just those humble brags, the ones that's like, I'm too sensitive.
Sometimes I'm too kind.
I'm too kind and all that, and it's like, I know what you're doing, I know what you're saying. It's like, that's not a real criticism,
No.
And because of that, the INFP gets away scot-free.
Can you give another example maybe of how an INFP gets off scot-free in life when they should perhaps be suffering for their crimes?
Maybe it's they go off alone in their room by themselves and escape having to, admit where they're wrong. They escape having to apologise where they've done something terrible. I need alone time. I need to be by myself. They don't do that.
Yeah, they don't go out and issue an apology. They just hide from the world even when they've done wrong.
Yeah, when in fact an INFP should be on their knees begging forgiveness to the EJs.
But do you feel like INFPs have overall contributed positively to world history?
It's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Like you read about those disastrous world history moments, like the revolutions, and you through it all, you see the hidden hand of the INFP pulling people's strings, influencing things in a negative way, causing chaos. It's never the INFP who's on front and center, but you know, you can see them there. If you know enough about INFPs, you can sort of see
The invisible hand.
Yeah.
Telling stories that get people all fired up.
That's
maybe.
it. How many INFP writers are there? And people always say like, oh, you know, I love Orwell, he's great, he's an INFP. What about the bad INFP authors? There'd be tons. I reckon in old tribal societies, a lot of like shaman figures would have been INFPs. Imagine like an old man, like an old deranged INFP, and people come to them for their problems like, I am feeling bad. And the INFP would be like, you must go to that hill and sit there for 3 days and come back. Something will speak to you.
And what good's that actually doing at the end of the day?
Well, this is maybe what the value of the INFP is, to give a bit of insight.
What's some of the negatives about an INFP, maybe in an old tribal system?
Maybe it's the proliferation of balderdash spread through the INFPs.
That's quite a nice little summary, I think, of the pros and the cons of INFPs.
I feel like we just barely scratched the surface of the negatives, though.
Right. Are there any more negatives you want to bring up?
Well, there are heaps. Like, where to begin? Like, they can hold a grudge.
Yes, they can hold a grudge.
And they cannot let it go, and they let the grudge incorporate into the fibre of their being. That's why you get the vengeful INFP. You know, the one that stalks in the shadows, that, you know, you look out the window and there is the INFP. You look through the blind, it's an INFP. Looking for revenge.
This is a certain kind of INFP archetype. No one believes that Raskolnikov from Crime and Punishment is an INFP, but I'm pretty sure he is personally.
Because people can't handle it. It's like, he can't be.
No, because
he just can't be.
INFPs are so nice.
He's not. They're nice people. He's not nice. He's terrible.
I think a lot of INFPs end up being like the Phantom of the Opera.
That's the example. You think of a twisted INFP, the Phantom of the Opera is your man. He's the how an INFP turns villainous is in the Phantom of the Opera.
Maybe the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yep, Quasimodo. A murderous Quasimodo.
What about somebody like Belle from Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah, because you know, like you watch Beauty and the Beast and you're like, Belle, she's perfect. She's beautiful. She's charming. Like, where's her bad side? She doesn't seem to have any. They don't show it in the film.
But then when you really think about it, look at the damage she's done to that town.
Yeah, she got Gaston killed, right? And did she shed a tear? I don't remember.
I think a lot of people might see INFPs this way as just sort of not really seeing the chaos that they're causing, I think, just through their very being.
Yeah, it's the wily nature of the INFP. They sort of
wily,
divert attention away from themselves. The negative attention, I should add, is not me. I'm an INFP. I could never be doing all this terrible stuff. It's this ESFP, EST, whatever. Not me, them. But some people do see through it. They're like, and they expose the INFP to who they really are.
Would you say that you, as an ISFJ, are here to expose the INFPs for who they really are?
Well, that's why we're making this video, just put it out there.
Because a lot of my audience are INFPs, and I think sometimes they forget how villainous they are. Now, when you look at the 16 personality types description, on the website, 16P, do you feel it really matches up with INFPs, this idea that they're dreamers, they're off in the forests, frolicking with a flower?
You read the description, you see a little image, it's like this beautiful woman with flowers in her hair prancing along the fields, INFP. This is just not the case.
What would you replace it with if you were given a chance to redesign the 16 Personalities website and come up with more of an accurate image? What would you put for a description of INFPs based on your experiences?
I would put a man with a black shirt, with hair in a man bun in his room with the door closed, and on the door it says INFP.
Do not disturb.
Do not disturb, or keep out.
And how would you describe this INFP character? These people are going to the 16 Personalities website, they've done the test, it says I am an INFP. Now scroll down to see some of the attributes of an INFP. How would you change their version of INFP to your view of INFP?
Melodramatic, self-absorbed, mopey, and creative.
Well, anyway, I hope you've learned something from this video. Thank you so much, ISFJ, for coming on Vondelpete and giving us some advice. And I think your child is in the pram over there crying, so you better attend
Yes.
to her. But thanks so much
Hello.
for joining us on Vondelpete, and hope to have you on again soon. And let me know in the comments if you've resonated with what this ISFJ has to say about you, or do you disagree with the ISFJ?
It's an INFP.
She might be an INFP, we don't know yet.
Are you an INFP?
Are you an INFP? She's crying. That's an INFP trait.
She could be an INFP.
Yeah, we'll find out in a few years, I suppose.
What's we going to do if she is?
Well, get ready for a very stressful life.
Alice, look. INFPs.
And Vondelpete.
They're on TV, the INFP.
Anyway, say bye-bye. Bye.